Okay, I gotta talk about this. I gotta talk about this. What is up with the chaos? What is up with the chaos? I mean, I've tried to be in denial about it. I'm not gonna lie. I have been. I've been in denial, but we got to talk about this. We got to.
Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
Okay. So let's talk about the chaos. Now I was first really introduced to it when uh, I read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life, right? Antidote to Chaos, and he introduced the concept, at least to me, at the time. I believe it was like 2 years ago. Uh, the chaotic nature of women. Women are the chaos, and men are the order. And mind you, most men today, most people today are taught to act a certain way towards men and women. They're trying to push the narrative that we're the same, et cetera, et cetera. That bullshit, right? Um, okay. I've always, observed things, and I've noticed that, yeah, when it comes to people being reasonable, it's usually the guys, and women are just randomly whatever the fuck they want to be. Usually, in my life, that's what I've observed. So when I first heard, you know, what he was talking about in that book, women are the chaos and men are the order. It instantly clicked in me, and I immediately understood exactly what he was talking about. Right? He also talks about the good and the bad of it, right? For both the order and the chaos, because there are extremes on both sides. Both of them can be utilized for good as well as they can also be utilized for bad. But when it comes to an organized, structured society, the standard is order for a reason. Chaos is good for progress. It is good for discovery. You know, mutations are chaotic. Things can end up worse or better. That's why this whole cocoa thing is going down the way it is. That damn thing mutates so goddamn rapidly. It's ridiculous. But it's just the chaotic nature of women in general. And I was watching the video is in the description. Men Fair Highlight Daily. Their video came out and they were talking about John Cena and why he was putting his women under a contract, right? Which was reasonable. I understood that guys at that level they do that. I mean, because they have to pretty much, right, to protect themselves and their families. But I will say that it kind of did spark something in me, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I do notice that women do kind of tend to want to always keep things in the gray zone. Like they don't never want it to be black or white. They always want it to remain iffy. Like, okay, oh, we don't need a title. Oh, we don't need this. We don't need that. We don't need it in writing or nothing like that. They kind of just want to leave it un, you know, un outside of a contract or not, solid in stone. They want to leave it open. And I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, okay, why is that? Why are women in general like the default? Like when you try to introduce a contract or something, why is the default for them to like disgust? Like they don't like, for some reason, they don't like contracts or agreements for things, especially like say a relationship, like what outside of marriage, because they already know marriage favors women. Period. Well, let's just be real. by majority, by the vast majority, marriage favors women because women tend to, they are hypergamous by nature. They tend to get with guys that earn more than them for, because that's what they're attracted to, protectors and providers. And naturally, marriage protects the one that earns less. So naturally, marriage does protect women. Marriage laws heavily, even the way they're written, they're technically not sexist. But let's just be real. We all know who tends to earn more in the marriage and who tends to take on the children during a split, right? So, yes, the law itself, how it's written, it is objective. It is not sexist. However, how it is enforced, as I've always said, the enforcement of the law is subjective because you have to stand before the court, and there's got to be a judge, and they typically are a little more sympathetic and whatnot towards the woman, the wife. But outside of marriage, because we already know the default for that is in the favor of women anyway. It's like what's wrong with regular like contracts for stuff? Like, hey, if we're dealing with one another, okay, let's make this legit. We're gonna deal with one another for real, for real. I'm gonna put this contract in place to protect myself, which is kind of what he was doing. But I think he was also setting it up for marriage anyway, so it was kind of like a prenup as well, which we already know women don't like prenups too, for a reason, because it pretty much, it can protect the man and it doesn't favor them, obviously. But of course, there's that infamous story with former Hornet and former whatever other teams he played with, Steven Jackson, where he was talking about how he was supposed to be getting married and his wife was trying every trick in the book to not sign the prenup, and then he eventually called off their wedding because of it. So, you can go find that on YouTube. But it's like, why? What is it that makes them want to keep things in the gray area? I did talk about, when I was kind of breaking things down, I talked about how women lack honor. Like they don't, not to the extent that men have it, because usually when you have a contract, you have to honor it for better or for worse. That's the point of honor. That's the point of taking a vow and stuff. You're supposed to honor it for better or for worse. Now, some people might be like, okay, well, but, women have always done that throughout time. They respected and honored their husbands and their wishes and stuff. Yeah, because, prior to this generation and the generations prior to me, which is probably like within the last century, to be honest, prior to that, women did that because they knew men valued it. Men valued a woman who would, respect his authority and would exhibit honorable traits and actions, right? Act like a lady, etc., etc. Yes, that was highly valued because men valued that in a woman. But the thing is, what we have to realize when we talk about modern women, they are the most free of any other woman that we know of in history. Meaning, today, women are how they wish they would like to be. And even when I was talking about how women of old actually did exhibit some honorable traits and tendencies, it was because they knew men favored them because of it, and they would win favor for men. So it was possible for a woman who was, a widow with 2, 3 kids, and a guy would be willing to take her on because he saw she would honor her passed away husband, and then she would honor the man who steps in his footsteps, who steps in his place and helps take care of the kids. Today, the thing that we see today, women aren't doing things to try to please men. They're doing things to please themselves. Women today are showing the true narcissistic nature of women. They're doing everything for themselves today. They say give a fuck about a nigga, remember? No, they're doing things the way that they would do it if they didn't have to rely upon the protection and provisions of men. So women today are their truest form. They are what they are and their truest self today. They haven't always have been this whenever they had the opportunity to be it. But the problem is they haven't, because they've always, the world 100 years ago was vastly different than it was today. Feminine hygiene products, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, they were very dependent. Women were very dependent upon men prior to today's civilization. They still are, but when I say very dependent, I'm talking about in the household. Like, they could not run a household on their own. It was damn near impossible. I'd even go so far as to say it was impossible. They needed a man, period. Today, there are factors that a woman can quote unquote, run her own household without a man, because, she can get out there and work. Yes, it was illegal for a woman to work back in the day, but she can get out here and work and earn an income. She might not earn as much as the man because she doesn't work as much as him, but she can. She can get government benefits for pretty much doing nothing but blowing out kids, right? It incentivizes that. Thanks a lot. But yeah, I was just thinking. I was like, okay. So I'm putting all the pieces together, and I'm like, okay. So women today are their truest self, right? Women today are what women whom, if they have the opportunity to become what they really are, this is what they would become eventually. They would only care for themselves, their vanity, and trying to do the best things in life, and also trying to live or operate in a gray area especially when it comes to dealing with men, because they don't want anything to really be in writing unless it's in their favor. They don't want to have to honor anything that isn't damn near guaranteed to be in their favor. Because remember what I said, when you make a vow or something, or you sign a contract, you're supposed to honor it for better or for worse. For better or for worse. Well, I think women know, okay, if I sign this contract, I'm going to be obligated, or I'm going to be expected to honor this contract or whatever, for better or for worse. And that's the part that they know that they don't want to have to do. I don't want to have to honor this for worse. Also, I also think women are kind of aware of their own chaotic nature, because they know today what they think and want or desire today. They know that it might change within a year or two, sometimes a month or two. They kind of know that. Therefore, what's the point in putting in a long-term contract when they know themselves that their objective and everything in life is pretty much going to be completely different? And then now they got to honor that contract or something they put in place for better or for worse. Now, mind you, a narcissist, they're not going to want to do the for worse part. They're going to try to wiggle their way out of it any way they can, because they only want the for better part. But I do have a personal story with this, because me personally, I have experienced this myself in my relationship, where it's like that nothing. It's preferred that nothing is put in writing. So story time. So if it's one thing I hate, sorry, didn't mean to put that up. If it's one thing I hate in a relationship, is gaslighting. So I hope you guys are aware, or you can look at the definition of gaslighting, but it's pretty much, if I were to abbreviate it, it's like somebody triggering someone else with something that they take it out of context or something like that, right? And they take it out of context or misinterpret it. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna look up the definition. Manipulate someone by a psychological means into questioning their own sanity. That's gaslighting. So pretty much they bend reality. Like, say you do something and then someone bends the reality to make you yourself question whether or not it was what it was. You know how women argue like, "Oh, you always do that. Oh my God, you always do this. You always do that." Mind you, you probably only just started doing it, but they want to bend reality to make it seem like it's a lot worse than what it really is. That's a form of kind of gaslighting. It's like, no, the typical the typical logical person's response is, "No, I don't always do that. Like I literally just started doing it." And then of course, usually what happens is a freaking argument ensues because you're battling her attempt to gaslight the situation and point out the obvious, your flaw, of course, but you're trying to point out the obvious gaslighting. Let me get away from that. Okay, but yes, in my relationship, I will say, uh, the lady I was dealing with definitely does a lot of gaslighting, and one of the problems that I've learned dealing with her is she didn't like things to be in writing or recorded. And I'm like, okay, if we have an argument, because I would literally notice in real time she would gaslight stuff or say stuff. Because mind you, what you guys have to realize, and I've had to say this before, when a woman's like, say you're having an argument, but when a woman's talking, she is, and she's like very emotional, she blabs her mouth to where instead of thinking what she's going to say in her head, she says what she's thinking in real time. So she might, so you know how you might think something, you might think of saying something, and then you reinterpret it in your mind, and you find a better way of saying it, and then you say it the better way and not the original way. Well, what women tend to do is they will say something, and then they'll do it in real time and then say it differently later, and then you'll try to go back to what they originally said, and to them it's like, no, I didn't say that, I said this. And then you're like, no, you totally did. It's yeah, it happens. So they think out loud in real time, like, so that's why, like, you have to kind of understand that. And you have really, what it is, it's really critical. Usually when they reinterpret something, you have to kind of point it out and make it clear. Okay, you originally said this, and then you said that. Okay, am I to believe this or that? And then, and then maybe you can try to understand it. But I noticed this fairly early in the relationship, and I kind of was like, okay, obviously when I would bring it up in real time, she wouldn't believe me. She would be like, "No, you're making shit up, et cetera, et cetera." Like I said, gaslighting. So making it. So then it got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to record our arguments from here on. But guess what happened? We started having less arguments, or the arguments were short. You want to know why? Because I would, of course, I would attempt to record on my phone, but you know how it is. Sometimes you just forget shit, and you don't do it all the time. Well, we'll start to have an argument, and then she'll do it, and I kind of forgot that I'm not recording, and then I'm like, okay, hold on, let me record this, and then guess what happens? She wants to end the conversation then and there because for some reason she doesn't want me to record what it is she's saying, possibly because she might know, okay, it's kind of like a contract, because you record something, it's pretty much like a recorded contract. What you're saying is set in stone. And what I would notice is she would act some type of way and be like, "Oh my God, you trying to record this?" I'm like, I'm done." And then she try to walk away and shit. And I'm like, "Well, wait a second. I thought we were having a conversation here. Like let's talk this out." Like I was willing to bring in third parties and record our conversations because I knew what was going on, but she was not. And she would try to work out, because like I said, usually the arguments were less, not because there were less issues, but because I would make an attempt to record them, and every time I would attempt to record it, she wouldn't want to pursue it any longer. Which that was kind of a red flag to me, because I'm like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? I'm literally trying to solve this issue because I'm a guy. I like to solve problems. Shout out to y'all who watch the Trials of Men. I like to solve problems. I'm trying to legit solve this issue, solve this problem. Let me record it for record keeping. Let me record this conversation. And she was all like, totally 100% against it. She would never say why. But I always suspected, I'm like, okay, either she's purposely trying to manipulate me and she knows it, or it's just like a natural, inherent disdain for order. because it's like, and you know, it's either or. Either she knows she's purposely trying to manipulate me, or it's a natural disdain for order. It's recalcitrant behavior. For those who don't know what that means, go look it up. It means a disrespect or intentional disrespect towards order or people of power or towards power and order. I'm paraphrasing there, and I'm just like, okay, because when you think too logically, it's like you can't wrap your head around it, which is why I said I don't argue with women. I try to use different methods to try to get within reason because I like to keep it in the realm of reason because I know once we dive out the realm of reason, it's no longer it no longer makes sense to me. It no longer makes sense. But I did notice that she would not like to record our conversations. Additionally, she did not like to anything. You know how somebody says like I told you something, and then they make it seem like you forgot something that they told you. Hey, I told you to go pick up this, or I told you to do that, right? Well, she would do that a lot too. And I was just like, okay, from now on, and she would do it when I'm doing something. Like, say I'm in the middle of fucking fixing a car engine. She like pop her head in, and like I'm literally in the middle of doing a fucking oil change or something up under the car or some shit. And she'd be like, hey, remember to go do this, this, and that. And sometimes when you like, to me, all I hear is roar, 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 roar. And I might not hear what the hell she said, but then she'll kind of be gone before I can even ask like, what the fuck did you just say? Or sometimes when I'm busy doing something, like say like I used to play games a lot. Uh, well, when I was younger, I don't really play as much as I used to, but I did like to play games and stuff. This was when I was a console gamer, and like relaxing time because I used to work 3 4 jobs, full time student. So when I had some time to relax, if I wasn't going to the gym, I'd play games. And it's during my relax time, and then she'd be all up in my ear trying to have a full blown conversation while I'm trying to play my game or some shit. And then she might say something or remind me of something she said during that conversation while I'm trying to have my relaxation time. And I'm not gonna lie, I should have just told her, shut up, I'm trying to play my game, go somewhere else with that. But I'm trying to be nice. You know how we do, guys. The default, like, yeah, yeah, like we're paying attention when really we aren't. Yes, I'm not gonna lie, I was guilty of it. And then there's say there's something important like, hey, I told you to go pick up my W-2 so I can file my taxes or something like that, right? This is just an example. And I'd be like, well, no, you didn't. And she was like, yeah, you remember yesterday when you were playing the game and I was talking and I was like, hey, can you go get my thing? And my default was like, yeah, and then I'm like, well, why the fuck didn't you tell me anything about that today? That was like a week ago. Well, I told you, and I'm just like, okay. And then that's when I set a rule. I was like, okay, from now on, whenever you tell me something that needs to be done that's urgent, text it to me or email it to me because whenever you talk, like whenever it's just verbal and there's no record of it, and mind you, I use Google Calendars faithfully. If it's not my Google Calendar, it doesn't exist. And I would tell her this for as long as I've been as long as I was with her, right? And I'm just like, if it's not my Google Calendar, if you're not texting it to me, email it to me to where I have an actual legit record of the communication, it doesn't exist. You think she used that to her benefit? Hell no. She still continued to do the same old, same old. She never want. For some reason, she did not want to keep any kind of real record of wherever the fuck it was she asked me to do or was trying to, if she told me something important or something like that. For some reason. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, why? And I was aware of it, which is why I was trying to be like, hey, can you please put it in text, put it in writing, put it on my calendar or some shit. Put it somewhere so I can keep a record of it. And for some reason, absolutely not. She didn't want it in writing. She didn't want a record of it. Nothing. And I'm not gonna lie, it bugged the hell out of me because I'm a guy. I'm a freaking guy. I like to freaking solve problems, and I can see this is an easy fix. You know how it is when you have a problem, and that problem is supposed to be easy, and you're like, oh, that's simple. Let me do this, and then like for some reason, the person that you tell to do the simple fix, they don't fucking do it to fix the damn problem. And that's why it really irked my nerves. And then there was one day where she fucked up. And mind you, this was going on for years. And it wasn't constant. It was like every 2 or 3 months, every now and then, I'll be just like, hey, I told you start putting shit in writing. It wasn't consistent because, mind you, if it was consistent, I wouldn't have even dealt with it. It was like it would pop up every like 2 to 3 months, right? And one time, there was this one time specifically, probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember this because this was literally the turning point to where she actually started believing what the fuck I was telling her. I was like, because originally I was trying to tell her, I was like, I think sometimes you be saying shit that you never did or never do. Like, she'll say she told me to do something, and I'm like, no, you didn't. And she'd be animate to tell me, like, yes, I did. And I'd be like, okay, well, which is why I told her to put shit in writing, because it's easy to prove it, right? But she would never do it anyway, despite me telling her, despite me constantly telling her every 2 to 3 months or however, frequent it did happen, right? She would never do it. And there was this one day where she fucked up. And I was going through the usual, okay, when did you tell me? What time? What was I doing? Because I know she likes to tell me shit when I'm busy doing shit, like, playing a game or fixing something. When did you tell me? What was I doing? Because I'm trying to pinpoint exactly when it was she told me something. Because sometimes I do remember. I have a fairly decent memory, and I would remember something, especially if it's important, right? So I was going through the normal. I was like, okay, how did you tell me? And when I said that, she fucked up and said, yeah, I even texted it to you. Now this was the moment where my ears and everything was on full alert. I was like, wait, what? I was like, what? Oh, you did, huh? And then this is where I was like, okay, now we finally got something here. So I was instantly, like, my whole demeanor and everything changed. I focused on that moment. As soon as she said that, she was like, yeah, I texted it to you. I was like, okay, show me the text message. Show me the text message. I looked on my phone because it was something she tried to tell me. She told me like the day before. Went through all my texts for the last week, didn't see a damn thing. I said, you know what? Sometimes her phone, fucks up. I think she just don't be pressing the send button. Sometimes, I don't get her text from time to time, right? So I was like, okay, get your phone. Let's look at your phone and then look through it. And I shit you not, while she's actively doing this, she's still trying to chew me out. Like, I can't believe you never remember stuff. You always do this. And then all of a sudden she got damn near quiet. She got damn near quiet. She up there looking for the text messages, like, while she's running her damn mouth. You always do this. I tell you stuff and you never remember it, and I don't feel important in your life, etc., 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 blah, 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 bullshit, right? And then she just got quiet, damn near silent, quiet. And I'm just like, okay, something happened here. Because, I notice things in people. I notice the demeanor changes. I have a fairly high Q, so I notice, because this was face-to-face conversation. I noticed when something changes, and I was looking at her face. She stopped talking, and she kind of had that dumbfounded face, right? And because, mind you, she was still looking for the text message and everything. And I was just like, do you see the text message? And mind you, she was still kind of quiet. She was like, hold on, give me a second. And then she was looking, and I could see she was kind of scrolling up and down on her phone on the message feed. And then she was like, I know I sent it. And then that's when I was like, I started taking over. And I was like, okay, you need to sit down because I need to tell you something. And then that's when I pretty much went into, I was like, okay, I've noticed you've been doing this shit for however long you've been doing this. It happens from time to time. It's one of those tedious things where, it's a problem, but it's not that big of a problem. Like, the benefits outweigh the the risk at the time, right? And I was like, I notice from time to time you do this thing where it's like you say something that you did not do. Like, I don't remember it at all, which is why I've been trying to get you to do this, trying to get you to do that. Like, send the text messages for important things so I can keep a record of it, right? Put stuff in my calendar so I can keep a record of it, right? Stop talking to me while I'm in the middle of doing something and then wait until afterwards to tell me something if it's important, right? That kind of thing. Obvious, easy, simple shit to solve the problem. And I'm just like, okay, you know, I set her down and I was like, hey, listen, this is a problem that I think we can probably try to get to the bottom of it, because I've been trying to tell you, I think that sometimes when you be doing this stuff, you literally just make this shit up. Like, you think you tell me something, you think you do something, and you really don't. And then because you think it's reality, and then you try to blame me and gaslight me for something that was never actually done. But the fact that she would never put it in writing or have a record of it, I could never technically prove it, so therefore she would never believe it, and she just write it off. Now I had the proof. And this I took advantage of this moment to finally prove the very thing I had been trying to prove for the longest. And I was like, this is what you do every now and then, and it's annoying. Well, I ain't say it like I was nice and kind when I said it, but I'm speaking my mind right now. It's annoying as hell. For some reason, I've kind of been noticing that you've been, whether it's intentional or whether it's intentional or unintentionally, not taking my advice to solve the simple problem. Therefore, the problem persisted. However, it would work in her favor. It would work in her favor. And now, currently, this is me currently, so story time over. Now, currently, I'm looking into it. I'm like, okay, I see the benefit of it. Because if you were to make say, a verbal agreement with someone, it's not recorded, it's not on record anywhere, there's no record of what was or wasn't said, and then say something happens to where you know that verbal agreement no longer works in your favor, but you still have to honor it. You remember how to say you have to honor whatever your vows are, you have to honor a contract or your vows, for better or for worse? Well, what if whatever your contract or vows was, or whatever you pledged or whatever, what if it was never permanent? What if it was never on record? And then therefore, when it doesn't work in your favor, you can use those deflection or the ways to weasel out of it. Plausible deniability. Oh no, I never did that. That never happened. There's no proof that ever happened, etc. So, shout out to the lawyers and people that know what the law is what you can prove, right? Shout out to y'all. Like, there's no proof of it. Like, no, I never said that. I never said I would do that. That wasn't what happened. This is what happened. So they're always going to rework it to where it works in their favor. Like, say somebody says, okay, if the thing gets to, this is random, this is an example. They make a verbal agreement. Okay, hey, if the thing gets to 15%, then, I win, therefore I get the benefits. However, if it doesn't make it to 15, then you get it, and then I'll have to make up for it, right? Let's say it gets to 10. Well, now, because that verbal agreement or whatever, it was never set in stone, they'd be like, oh, no, I never said that. I said if it gets to, I said 9.10, then, so yeah, because it's 10, it's above 9.10, therefore I win, because, I never said 15. Like, no, I said 9.15. Shout out to y'all that caught that. No, I said 9.15. So, yeah, I said if it was below 9.15, then, then I do, then I'd have to make up for it, and, I lose. However, because it's above 9.15, I win and I get it. And you see what I'm saying? So that's why it's like, okay, I can see the benefit of it, which is why it's I mean, it makes sense. I understand it. I understand it. Let's just say it like that. I understand it. Would I do it? No, because I do what I say I'm going to do, which is why I like to put things in writing. That's just a fact. But like I said, when you're dealing with someone who has narcissistic tendencies, which, i.e., woman, she's not going to want to do that. She's not going to want to have to honor something that doesn't favor her, that doesn't work in her benefit, which is why it's in her best. interest to never put anything in writing or make anything permanent because one, what she desires or wants to do can change, and two, if it doesn't work in her favor, she can easily just, claim plausible deniability, feign ignorance. That's another thing I always see all the time. They try to act like they're stupid, like they don't understand what the hell's really going on, or what the real is. Feign ignorance. Things, things that they can utilize to weasel their way out of shit that doesn't favor them, right? And when I was watching that thing, and I was looking at how he's putting that thing in a contract, I kind of did also notice something else, because I did actually utilize contracts during one of my relationships, right? Where things changed in the relationship, and I was like, okay, let's put this in contract. And I would kind of notice that when I did do that, let's just say the relationship changed. She didn't like it at all. Even though it was pretty much like, a standard, like, hey, we're going to be boyfriend, girlfriend. This is what, if this happens, then that. If that happens, then this. Like, she didn't like it. It could have been something that literally did not favor either one of us. It doesn't matter. She did not like it at all. Period. Which is why I'm kind of like, okay, maybe it is something like inherent. Maybe they do just naturally dislike having to, dislike order. That recalcitrant behavior I was talking about. Like, maybe they just naturally don't like it. Mind you, like, well, if you want to try it, or if you've done it yourself, like, mind you, if you've ever done that yourself, where you try to put out a contract to protect yourself during a relationship, right? I want you to kind of watch or see the change in her demeanor and facial expressions, and then see like all the joy and excitement drain from her face in real time. Like, the moment you introduce, okay, hey, we're gonna be in a relationship, she's gonna be excited for that, because mind you, let's just be real, women do like relationships with men that they like, right? But the thing is, okay, but here's this contract for the relationship and how things are gonna go, and then watch like the excitement and everything like drain from her face, because now like you're trying to obligate her into a contract to where she'll have to honor it for better or for worse, and it's in writing, so she can't just weasel her way out of it, right? Because they like to operate in the gray. They like to keep things, how can I say it, open. Well, for one, if she sees a better guy, well, guess what? We already know how monkey branching works. Well, that's one of the reasons why. And this is funny, because a lot of the societal norms have literally evolved around this. That's why, letting people look through your phone. No, that's not cool for guys. It's not cool to look through your spouse's phone as a guy. But oh yeah, a lot of guys already know. Yeah, you put your phone down, you already know your girl going through your phone. But as a guy, oh yeah, you weak if you look through your girl's phone as a guy. That's the dumbest shit I ever heard. And that's why it's like, okay, y'all literally boxing yourself into a corner. Because if I put in that contract, hey, we both have access to each other's phones, she ain't gonna like that. Of course, she's gonna like she has access to my phone, because she can see whether or not I'm dealing with other women and see what my options are like. But she ain't gonna like me going through her phone and seeing what her options are like, and see that she's also dealing with other dudes, right? She's not gonna like that, because if I'm just being honest, more time, well, I'm not even gonna lie, 100% of the time, from my experience, it's been the women that have been trying to be like, oh, I want to be monogamous, I don't want to talk to nobody else, etc., etc. It's been the woman for me that have been trying to push monogamy upon me. I like to keep things a little bit open, because especially when I was younger, because I understood. I know how women are. I know y'all like to talk to multiple dudes at a time. I knew this at a young age. That's why, one of the first real serious relationships I got into, I was like, hey, do you want to? I literally asked the question like day one, hey, do you want to make this an open relationship? I knew to keep my relationship, my emotions in check. She would pretty much essentially be no more than a friend with benefits, if I'm just being honest. And I was like, I was willing to leave that position open for her. But it was her that was like, no, I don't want nobody else. I just want to see where this goes. I only want to deal with you. Surprise, surprise. She was talking to other guys. So my thing is, okay, I understood, I understand, and I understood how things were. I might not have understood the why, but I just understood that's how it was, which is why I did what I did at that time. I understood it. That's how it is. I know girls like to talk to multiple guys, and then eventually they get with the best guy that they can. I understood that early on. I just didn't really understand the why. Another thing I didn't understand was the self-destructive nature of women. I did not understand that because it was, mind you, like I said, thinking logically, it made absolutely no sense to me. Why would I literally, like, say I'm in a situation, why would I unfavorably in that situation to where it does not work in my favor? Like, literally just self-destruct it intentionally or unintentionally. Like, it makes, like say you're in a great relationship, things are going great, and then all of a sudden problems just come out of nowhere. You start making shit up. Why would I intentionally end a relationship that things are going great? I did not understand it at all. I do now. I understood that it was how can I say it? She was suffering from insecurities. Apparently, I was so great, she thought that I would find someone better than her, and then therefore, I guess in her mind, she was like, "Well, eventually, I'm gonna find something better than her, so therefore, fuck it." And then she just self-destructed the relationship. Mind you, things are going great. I wasn't even talking. I wasn't interested in no other girl at all because things were going great with her. I liked her. I liked to kick it with her. And then I found out this, of course, after. But it was just because I was always wondering, like, the problems just started out of nowhere, and I was like, why? Like, what the fuck's going on here? Why? Like, because I kind of, I'm not gonna lie, I did think about that because I was like, okay, is it possible that she's like intentionally like destroying our relationship? And I'm not gonna lie, I ran that through my mind, and I could not, I didn't believe it at the time. I couldn't believe it because it made no sense. Because I was like, okay, I'm not cheating, I'm not doing any of this fuckboy shit. I'm completely honest. If she asks me a question, I tell her the true, honest to God answer to anything. I'm willing to talk about anything. I'm even willing to bring in third parties, do counseling, all that other shit. I'm willing to do everything, any and everything. I'm open to it. I'm fulfilling her needs, sexually, financially, all that best I could. There are some instances where she couldn't pay her bills, and I'll step in and be like, "Hey, I got you," that kind of thing, right? I'm doing any and everything she could want. Which is why, like, when I asked, like, what's the problem, and she could not tell me what the problem was because I don't think she understood her damn self. She was just so concerned with her insecurities got to her so bad. She was just like she would, of course, like, and this is a red flag, guys. When your girl starts asking you questions like, "Do you love me? Why are you with me?" That kind of shit. Like, when you have to like do that stuff, she's suffering from insecurities, and she might be thinking that you're trying to move on. There was also a bit of projections because, mind you, like I said, she had kind of, because mind you, she had made up in her mind at the time that I was talking to other girls because she didn't believe that I was only with her. She thought, okay, he's such a great guy, he's definitely got to have some other girls or some other girls on the side. Therefore, she kept her options open, which is why she was talking to other guys as well. And I say as well because, well, I don't want to say as well because I wasn't talking to other girls. Not, you know, outside of classmates and stuff like that. I wasn't, I did have friend girls, but not like that. Not like you guys think. Because they're lesbian, so no. But she thought I was dealing with or was looking forward to dealing with other women, and then therefore she kind of in her mind, without telling me, ended our relationship in her own mind, and then she started still dealing with me while she was kind of like talking to, keeping her options open pretty much. And then, mind you, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it, trying to make sense of it. And then eventually, it just got to the point where it's like, I didn't give a fuck no more. Because it made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. Now I understand why it made no sense, because it doesn't make sense. It wasn't meant to make sense. It was just chaos. Complete and utter chaos. Completely, totally chaotic. Absolutely no reason whatsoever outside of whatever it was she was feeling or thinking at the time. That's it. Like, because nothing else makes sense whatsoever. Even now, if I were to talk to her and we were to talk about that whole, because I remember there like it was a couple years ago where we did talk about our relationship and where it went wrong. She doesn't even recount things in order. The funny thing is, you remember I say women lie? The funny thing, and then they believe the lie. The funny thing is, she claims that the problem started because she saw text messages between me and some other chick, and she thought I was cheating, and then that's when the problem started. Actually, what really happened was she just randomly started acting different, was talking to other dudes, and that's when the problem started. There was no other chick until after I had broke up with her. After. So she might have saw some text messages after that, which is what happened. I kept my options open after that. She became a friend with benefits after that. And then she felt some type of way after that. But the funny thing is, even the start of the problem, she tries to rework it as if I was the cause of it, so that's why, you know, like I said, I got too much experience with this shit. But she tried to rework it to make it seem like it wasn't as bad as what it really was. I was like, no, you did what you started doing what the fuck you wanted to do. That's the problem. I have no problem pointing out the problem if I was the problem. But the thing was, I wasn't the problem. I'm not going to take blame for something that I didn't do. I'm not a cheater. Cheating's dumb to me. You know what I'd do instead of cheat? I'd break up with you and then I'd get with the other chick. It's easy. We're not married. We weren't married. You know, it's easy to just, hey, I'm no longer interested in you. I want to go deal with this. You know, I see something I like that, you know, I want that instead. It ran its course, you know? Cheating to me, like, there's no point in cheating to me. Because I can just leave you and go get with her. Period. I don't got to sneak around. I don't got to cheat. That's it. Period. But it's just trying to make sense of chaos. And my thing is, let me tell you from my personal experience. If you try to make sense of the chaos, you will lose your fucking mind. You will lose your fucking mind, and you will catch yourself. You will catch yourself becoming something that you didn't think you could become. Meaning irrational, somewhat belligerent, maybe a little emotional here and there, because it makes no fucking sense. And when you're like pondering a problem that makes no fucking sense, meaning it's a problem that you can't fucking solve because you can't pinpoint the real actual problem. Because mind you, remember how I said guys we like to solve problems. But imagine you're pondering a problem and you just, like, you have these things that might make sense, but then you find contradictions that now you're right back to square one. And then now, like, the more and more you ponder it, the less and less sense it starts to make. It will drive you fucking crazy. That's one of the reasons why I took up that thing where I'm like, I don't argue with women, period. Because it'll drive you fucking crazy, because they're going to try to drive it. They're going to try to take the conversation, which is one of the reasons why they don't want to bring up any kind of facts or statistics or anything like that. They don't want to bring up any legit research they've done, because most of the time they haven't done any research. It's all about what they think, and they're repeating things they've heard from people that works in their favor, of course. No, they don't care about the facts. All they care about is, this sounds right and it benefits me. That's all they care about. And then they will construe or construct anything to support it whatsoever. And then on top of that, they'll try to insult you. That's why sign language, that comes into play. They'll try to utilize sign language to get you emotional and acting irrational, and then operating within a state of chaos, which is where they know that they thrive. They'll try to drive you fucking crazy and make you look bad, which is why I don't argue with women at all. Period. I'm done with arguing. I know better. I know not to do that. But yeah. So if there's something you take from this, just understand the chaotic nature of women, right? That sometimes shit just won't make sense. They tend to want to operate within a gray area. They don't never want to keep anything on record for whatever reason. I mean, I've told you some reasons why, but reasons change from person to person. They might tell you something different, which, like I said, you can't prove or disprove an opinion, right? It's an opinion for a reason. It's how they perceive it. You can't, like I said, outside of reason. But Jesus, man, I'm not gonna lie. I got too much, too much involved in the chaos, and I'm just like, yeah, I just had to. It took me a while to understand it, to acknowledge that it is what it is, and then how to effectively deal with it. Because there's a right and a wrong way to deal with it, and the wrong way is definitely like that whole fight fire with fire thing. Trust me, you don't want to fight fire with fire. Not unless you have the mental gymnastics or ability to do it. Some guys do. From time to time, I can, but consistently, no. Like consistently, no. I can't. I can't. And I understand my limits. But I did want to bring that to light, and how I have noticed that trend when it comes to women, and especially within relationships and stuff, whether it be marriage or just, boyfriend, girlfriend thing, but how they don't like contracts and things in writing, whether it be inherently or because they know that, they'll be obligated to something during a point in their life or time in their life when they don't know what the fuck they're going to be doing at that time. Ask a woman what she wants. It's going to change from day to day. What she desires out of life is going to change from day to day. Because even then, I even learned that women themselves don't even know what the fuck really makes them happy. They don't even know what the fuck they really want. They are just chaos. It is what it is. It is what it is. So I hope you guys got something out of this, because I'm not gonna lie. Chaos. There's the thing. Chaos. Oh my god, I hate it. But I hope you got something out of it. Until next time.
お前はもう